I've already summoned meteor.
Welcome everyone to L2R2 PlayStation Podcast. My name's Fonzie. I'm joined by my co-host, indie game dev, and my UK bruv from another mum, Callum Monroe. Callum, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. I don't have my hat on, so hopefully I won't get sunburned. But yeah, no, all good.
So you mentioned sunburn. How do you deal with the sun? So I'm Mexican. I got this like natural instinct to just get brown. But how do you deal with the sun with your beautiful, white skin there?
Not well at all. I've got a lot of Scottish and Irish in me, and I'm covered in freckles, and yeah, it's not good.
Gotcha.
I was just saying to you earlier, I'm trying to grow out my chin hair for the first time. I've noticed some ginger hairs, and I knew there'd be some somewhere, because I should really be ginger with sort of how fair my skin is. But yeah, the sun just kills me normally.
So do you have like your proper regimen, like the sunblock, the sun hat? Like how do you deal with, or you just don't go outside? Like how do you do it?
No, to be honest, whenever I should be wearing sun cream or hat or anything, I normally don't. I never really used to wear hats or anything, so it's always been just sun cream that I rely on. But I hate having sun cream on. It's just like really oily and greasy, and so I never really. I mean, if someone has it, or if it's like in arm's length, like easy for me to use, then I will. But yeah, I'm really bad. Every time I'm in the sun, I tend to get sunburn, and then I'll moan about it for ages. But especially at like festivals and things like that, where you're just in a field and you're just cooking.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it. But
Right.
but no, I'm staying inside so far, and even though the sun's starting to come out now in sort of southern England, it's I'm managing to sort of stay away from it and sort of just look at it and appreciate it.
There you go.
From afar.
From afar, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get your sun eclipse glasses on, and then you can just.
Yeah.
Did you guys? I forget. So in the States we had that solar eclipse thing. Maybe it was like 2 years ago now, but it was a big deal because it was the first one in at least the United States. It went like it traveled right across from it. But did you guys get to experience that at all? It was a big one.
Yeah,
recently?
I think I can definitely remember something like that. But yeah, I remember something. Some sort of eclipse and people talking about it. There's always something. There's always something sort of happening in space that people are talking about.
Yeah,
so.
why look up? Just keep your head
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, what you been playing this whole week?
So I got PlayStation Now because of the sale that's currently on. So it's £37, which I think's probably not too different to the dollar nowadays. But yeah, £37 for 12 months, which I thought was a pretty good deal. I thought, with it, even if I don't use it now, over the next 12 months, I'll definitely get my money's worth. So yeah, I got that. And I played a game called Black Mirror on it.
Right.
Which it was awful. I've been playing a little bit more Final Fantasy 7, trying to get through that on hard difficulty. Quite near the end now. I've been doing maybe a chapter a night or whatever. So yeah, nearly finished that on hard, and I've just started on PlayStation Now again. God of War: Chains of Olympus.
Oh, was that a Vita? Not Vita game, but was that a? Oh boy, I'm blanking on the first
PSP title.
PSP, yeah.
Yeah. It was. So there was two released for PSP. There was Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta. And I love the God of War series, and I've played them all except the two PSP ones. So I thought this would be a good time to give them a go. I'm sort of considering playing the mainline ones again as well because they're just so good. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's really good fun. I'm playing it on hard the first time for some reason, and it is hard. But it's the first game sort of in a long time. So I used PlayStation Now when it first came out, but it's the first game that I've tried streaming because it's a PS3 remaster, and it works surprisingly well. I mean, there's a couple of times where it will drop and it will have that little symbol and it will start lagging a little bit, but they're sort of few and far between. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it actually. It's a good little romp, and I'm playing it on my laptop as well because I wanted to know how it worked on PC. Yeah, and that's quite nice because I can sort of, instead of lying in bed and playing it on my TV, I can sort of sit downstairs in the company of other people and just whack some headphones on and play it. And yeah, that seems to be working all right. It's a little bit iffy before you're on the game, but as soon as the game started, it runs pretty well. So yeah.
Yeah, I was very interested once you're trying that service because I just jumped in this last week for the first time too. I just bought the month to try it out. But I haven't experienced any hitches either. I feel the same with once you load a game, sometimes it takes a while to load the actual game. And then once you start, I haven't had any hitches any like game breaking hitches with the connection speed. Like it's been pretty decent.
Yeah,
that's cool. That kind of thing makes me hopeful for. Obviously, streaming isn't going to take over the industry, but it's going to become this like option. I think this like legitimate option that you can do.
Yeah, and I think that the only problem I have with PlayStation Now is, and as you know, I've trying my hand at making some videos about it.
Right.
Is the library is just there's just so much on it, and it just makes it really difficult to. I mean, when you filter by like all games, because the problem I found was as well, like on the main page, it misses out loads of like good games that it doesn't show you, so it's best to go to all games. There's just so much, and it reminds me of like Netflix, where you're just looking through. There's just so much choice there that you're just looking through, and you just don't choose anything. You end up not sort of actually picking anything. And the more obscure titles that maybe you that might be hidden gems, or you've never heard of them, or maybe you just heard them in passing. They have like hardly any details. They might have like a blurb, but most of them don't even have like galleries. You can't see screenshots of them, and so yeah, I think that's the only sort of negative about it, is there's just so much on there, and not a lot to. There's no way to know what the game is. You can't really watch trailers, and you have to, and if you do want to watch a trailer, you have to use the awful like PlayStation integrated thing. Same from the store, really.
Right.
So it's all just I think that there's a few things sort of that could be a bit better, but no, it's cool. It's just very overwhelming.
I had an issue with it was hard for me to search for games. It seems like it shouldn't be that hard to like, okay, I'm not seeing what I want, let me search for it. And also I know you have the ability to download some titles, but every title I seem to click on didn't give me the option to download. So I don't know how rare that is, but I know there is the ability to download some games.
Yeah, so I think what it is if it's a PS4 title or a PS2 title, then you can download them, because obviously if it's a PS4 game, it will just download it through the same, I don't know, way it would download it from the store. Same with PS2 games, but it's all the PS3 games that you have to stream, because PS3 games are famous or infamously hard to emulate,
right,
or to run on natively on the console. So yeah, if it's a PS3 title, you have to stream it. If it's a PS4 or a PS2 title, you have the choice to download or stream it.
Gotcha. That's what I experienced with, because I was playing and I finally beat Resident Evil 4. I was playing it through PlayStation Now, actually. Yeah. So I started it I have a copy on my PS3, and about halfway through my experience, I thought, I think my wife was like, wanted to play the PS3. One of the only games she ever plays is Skyrim. She plays that game like for the past, I don't know, 10 years. Like that's her game. But it's on the PS3. Like we have that that's where her save is. So I was thinking, well, with PS Now, can I upload my save to the PlayStation Plus and then grab it on PlayStation Now? So I was able to do that. I was able to upload and then go on PlayStation Now, re-download that save, and then just play through the streaming service. But yeah, I noticed once you do that, it's basically emulating the PS3. Like it has the same opening screen with the little the cool like orchestra and stuff. So it's like emulating PS3 software. That's how it plays those, which is pretty nuts that it's just like happening in the background.
Yeah, it's quite. I think it doesn't get enough credit, really. I mean, I understand that it'd be nicer if we could download all the games on there, but I think the way it works on, because like I said, I'm playing on my laptop, and it's relatively easy to do. And I mean, where my PC is right now, I doubt I would probably get good enough connection to stream. But for those who have their PCs indoors, or those who don't even have a PlayStation, it does work well. And there's some good titles on there. I mean, like Control's on there, and some other PS4 games. And yeah, so I think it is pretty impressive, and like you said, it seems like it really does emulate the PS3 with the UI. I mean, I was popping trophies on God of War, and it was like the PS3 UI, and I noticed when the game starts, it says like signed in the top right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty clever, but yeah, I mean, it would ideally be nice to download it, because I'm quite lucky with the internet connection I've got at home that I can stream pretty flawlessly. But even then, there are moments where it will drop for a few seconds. And I know that most people's internet just isn't good enough for the service, which is a shame. But yeah, I mean, it's impressive, and I'm enjoying it, and it's given me like a real new library of games to experience, and It's really good.
Yeah, same here. I'm actually surprised how much I dug it, and it just I didn't notice, going from actually playing on the PS3 to streaming it felt the same. And now I'm very interested in playing because they have all of the Resident Evil games, basically all of them on PS Now, all the big ones. So now I want to go through and play. I never played 5, I never played 6. I guess I'm more reluctant to jump into 6 because I've heard it gets wonky. But then I was actually revisiting some old reviews, and even like IGN was saying how it's some of the best moments in the RE franchise are in that game. There's actually a lot of like cool moments, but there's a lot of just weirdness too. So it kind of balances it out. But apparently RE6 might not be as bad as I've been told, throughout the years.
Yeah, no, I think RE6 is a good game. I think it tries to cater to too many people. That's the problem, and I mean, it's a huge production. It's probably the sort of biggest game they've made. I think they had a team of like 600 people or so that actually made it.
Jesus.
Because there's 4 different campaigns, and they're all trying to like cater to different audiences, and it's really obvious. So you've got like one campaign that's really like Call of Duty, like very military, and you got Leon's campaign that tries to go back slightly to the sort of more mystery horror with zombies and things like that. And then you've got Jake and Sherry from Resident Evil 2's campaign, which, if I remember correctly, is a bit more RE3. So it's about like a bit more actiony, but you've got like a big monster that chases you through the game.
Okay.
But for me, like I don't know, I enjoyed it because the general gameplay is really good. It plays really well. The shooting's really good. It has like a lot of moments where you can fall backwards and roll, and it works just really seamlessly. So yeah, I think it's a good game. It's definitely different, but I think especially for you, if you're playing through like 4 and then 5 and then 6, I think you'll enjoy it just because there's a lot of fan service, and it's just nice to see those characters again, and it has some of that sort of cheese that's sort of definitely there in like RE4 and RE5, but yeah, so yeah, you finished RE4 recently, didn't you? What did you think of it?
I loved it. I had a lot of fun, and I'm super glad I actually committed to play it. For some reason, throughout the years, I'd always quit after maybe the first couple of hours for whatever reason. But this time, I stuck through it, and the controls snapped into place where it just felt natural how you're moving around. I was quickly grabbing stuff out of my menu, jumping in again into the actual combat, going through weapons. And I actually liked that idea of, because you don't have that quick swap, you go into your menu, that gives you just a slight break from whatever's going on, and then you can, pick out your loadout and stuff. No, I had a blast. I was talking to my buddy Gavin. It's like there's definitely improvements that can be made. I don't know all this.
Yes.
I disagree with like okay, it is a masterpiece. It is perfect. I think you can create a new experience that adjusts some of the little just like quality of life things and still keep it the same. Although any mission with Ashley, fuck all that. I hated any interactions with Ashley. I feel like at least this go around this next time, maybe even make her maybe even lean harder into her own levels where she can do something a little bit more on her own. You know what I mean? Like there's something there you can mine. It's just at a current state, she's just kind of a nuisance, and I really did not like interacting with it.
No, I think there's definitely a way they can make that less annoying, because she is very annoying, and I get that the whole game revolves around you guiding her to safety, so that does translate into the gameplay, but there must be a better way to do it. And so I mean, even in like I know it's a smaller portion, but in RE2 you've got like Claire and Sherry.
Right.
And there's no point where Sherry can make you game over. It's more that they'll like separate. So I mean, maybe they could flesh out the story a bit more and have Ashley get captured more often, and then sort of a lot of the time you have to like go and get her back, or
please somebody like capture her, because I do not want to deal with it.
she's a real pain.
And also, does she ever use the ladder herself? I feel like every time I had to catch her when she would like jump off of a platform. Yeah. It's like, hey, dude, I use the ladder. You can use it too. Like I'm always catching her. It's like,
Yeah,
come on.
and you'll forget sometimes, and you'll just hear her go, help,
Yeah.
and you've got to like run back and get
And it would
yeah,
always work out where as soon as the one of the dudes grabs her, I got a second to go get her. I'm just about to
yeah,
like shoot him, and then they go through that red door. It's like, ah, fuck, so
yeah.
many times.
Although saying that, I think it also is down to the AI, because when you play Resident Evil 5, I think you'll have a horrendous time with the AI on that as well.
Oh no.
Your partner in that is, because it was like made for co-op, RE5.
Right.
So if you're not playing it co-op and the computer's controlling your partner, it can be a real a real mess at times. But it's good fun with a friend. But it's got some problems. But yeah, so if you're thinking of playing the next ones, I'd definitely recommend the PS4 versions, because they're if you did want to play with someone else, they're a lot more a lot more people are probably in that community.
I see.
And they play really well as well. They especially RE6, the PS4 version plays really nicely. Means you can use your DualShock 4 wirelessly and not have to like trick your PS3 with a cable.
Yeah, I never tried that, but is that possible to actually use your DualShock 4 on the PS4?
Yeah, you've got to use, it has to be plugged in, and the PS button doesn't do anything.
Okay.
So you can't like go into your dashboard or anything. You can just do the basic functions. But I don't know, there's just something about it. It feels just a bit strange for me using it, just because it has to be wired. It sort of almost feels like there's going to be an issue with it. But I mean, there's not. It's just, for me, it just gives me that feeling. And also, if your PS4 is like far away from you, it can be a bit of a pain to always have to have it plugged in. So.
Yeah, that's kind of the boat I'm in. It's like in the living room, and
yeah,
I know with RE4 as well. I didn't care for the not quick action, but the quick time events. They were just kind of there's times where I'm watching a cutscene, I can kind of relax a little bit, and nope, something happens quickly.
No, yeah,
and,
yeah, you got to stay on your toes.
Yeah, that was a little frustrating, but
yeah,
no, I loved it. I can understand how everyone considers it a masterpiece. It is, but I think there's just quality of life things we can adjust, and we can still keep the basic game there. And the idea of seeing this in the new, even though this game actually visually it holds up, it's beautiful still. I think it could still look even better if we did it in the the new RE engine. I love the cheesy dialogue. It's so weird, and Leon is just like not dramatic. He's just kind of he's just a nerd, man. Like the things he says in response to what's going on is hilarious to me. But
he's so like nonchalant, and he makes like jokes when there shouldn't. I mean, I love the bit when everyone in the village clears away and he's like, where's everyone going? Bingo. It's just there's just lots of little bit, and I don't know whether you did it. There's a part where there's like a throne, and if you go up to the throne and interact with it, he like sits in it, and like
I thought something would happen, but he just sits in there and looks like a badass. But that's about
it. So I think that's what I'm most excited to see, would be to see this RE2 remake Leon, because obviously they'd use that same Leon, that same character in an RE4 remake. Right. I'm just interested to see how they handle that, and I hope they don't make it too like serious. I'm sure they won't, but I'd still like to see those quips and things like that, because the RE6 Leon's slightly more serious, and I don't think people liked that about it. But yeah, I love Leon in RE4. He's just great.
Yeah, no, I dug it. It's such a good game. I'm glad I got to finally finish it, and it even unlocks these. They're not DLC, but there's just like extra missions you can play as Ada Wong. You can play as, I want to say, Wesker. That's just kind of, as the game's storyline's happening, you can play as other characters within that same time frame. Yeah,
you get so you get Ada's campaign, then you get mercenary mode, which is like it's a pretty famous RE mode. I think it was in RE3 first. It's in RE5 and 6 as well. But it's basically like waves. So there'll be like different maps. So the village is one of the maps, for example, and then you'll just see if you can survive the waves, and they're really challenging. But doing them unlocks you like more costumes, and you can like you said, you can play as different characters in Mercenaries, and so that's a good fun game mode as well.
Nice. Yeah. Other than that, I mean. That took a solid week, and even then, I think I ended up putting in like 20-something hours. I feel like I spent a abnormally long time, but I was taking my time. I died, a bunch, but it is
quite a long game. Yeah, it's especially compared to even Resident Evil like 5 is quite a bit shorter. But RE4 and probably 6 are. I mean, 6 just because it's got 4 campaigns, but RE4 and 6 I'd say are both easily past the 20-hour mark for your first sort of playthroughs. So yeah, they're pretty meaty games.
See, I wonder if that the length of the game is due to. I remember hearing the fact that RE4 was started and stopped a bunch of times. There was multiple versions that never panned out, and I wonder if there was just a bunch of stuff that they had on the cutting room floor that they kind of compiled together. I feel like I remember hearing Devil May Cry was also an offshoot of this. Like there was an action-y portion of the game. They decided to create its own thing, which became Devil May Cry at the time.
Yeah, I think it was Devil May Cry was meant to be Resident Evil 4, and then they ended up just... so yeah, I think I suppose the longer you spend on like pre-development for a game, the longer you can like marinate these ideas and these sections of the game. So yeah, I think that because I mean, if you look at like, I think it was Code Veronica that was before it. If you look at the length of that, I mean, it's probably 5 or 6 hours long, if that. So it is a dramatic increase in length. But yeah, then again, it's a different kind of game, and I don't think if RE2 or 3 was to be 16 to 20 odd hours long, that they'd be as fun. I think they suit being a more contained experience, and then RE4 suits being this like long experience with lots of different environments. And because I that's what I love about it as well, is there's just so many different locations in the game, and it's like whenever I look back on it, there's always a time where I'll be like, oh yeah, I forgot that bit happens, or even though I've played through it, I mean, at least 20 times, and there's still moments where I'm like, oh, I completely forgot about this bit or that. But that actually reminds me, every time because there's a group of like 3 of us who love Resident Evil 4, and we always like play it together now. But every time we play it, we always laugh because there's always parts where we'll be like, oh, not this bit, like bits that we can remember where we're just like, oh, not this bit. And so I remember towards the end, there's a part when you're on that island and there's a guy in like a turret, and we have a pretty horrible memory of trying to do that bit on the hardest difficulty. And I think the only reason we got past it was because the game like bugged out and he like just wasn't shooting at us. Oh. So that's the only reason we were able to get past it. But yeah, there's a lot of bits of that game that after you've played for it a few times, you're like, oh, I wish I didn't have to do this bit.
Yeah, I definitely feel a percentage of that. Are you talking about there's an enemy that he has like a mobile turret that he'll walk around and kind of find you? I think once you're on the island, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. There's those guys, and then I can't remember the bit exactly, but it's like a big like encampment that you've got to like get through, and they've got like watchtowers.
Oh, okay.
Things like that, and there's a part where there's like a guy on like a rotating turret, and he's just a real pain in the arse. But yeah, it's such a great game. I'm glad you went through it and got through it, because I suppose now when they make a remake, you'll be able to sort of see what's different and how it compares to the original as well.
Right, then I'll be on the same team of how dare you remake this, classic.
Yeah, you can sit on your high horse and look down, and it'll be like,
what I did encounter
that haven't played the original.
And just like reading stuff about the game afterwards, I didn't realize the adaptive difficulty was such a thing, and like people found that later on, that behind the scenes the game is kind of calibrating the difficulty based on how well you're doing and cutting you a break when you're actually doing really bad. I really dug that you're not really meant to feel it, because that's how efficiently it's running, that it's scaling for your playthrough.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I sometimes wonder about that bit I just said about where this guy just stopped shooting. I sometimes wonder whether that was the game being like, right, you've tried this 30 times, just get through it. But I mean, it is clever, and I think that's a sort of a design philosophy that I think when it's used, it creates an amazing game. I think when the designers are instead trying to make it fun for the player rather than making the game difficult, because if you're making the game, you want the player to see it from start to finish,
right?
Anyway, and I think offering the player a helping hand at certain points, and if they don't know about it, then that's even better. But yeah, I think it is pretty genius the way they added in an adaptive difficulty, and the fact that nobody even realised until some nerd dug deep into it and figured it out.
Yeah, especially with like, because I'm notorious for it too, with the games where I really try to not lower the difficulty for like as much as I can, and then I guess eventually I will, I'll do it, but you never feel great about it. So if the game can kind of do it in the back end and then go back to a difficulty you can handle, like I love that idea, because you definitely want to still feel a struggle, still feel a challenge. You know, you want to just breeze through something, but there's this difficult balance, and I mean that's what every developer's trying to nail. But yeah,
in fact there's even a in the RE2 remake. I was watching a speed run of it on GDQ or whatever, and the guy was saying that if you kill a certain amount of zombies, then later on in the game they'll take more shots to die.
Gotcha.
So he is saying that it's better for the speed run to try and avoid the zombies at the beginning, because then when you're towards the end where you have to fight zombies or whatever, then they'll be easier to kill because you haven't killed any yet. So there's still that element of trying to balance the game out depending on what the player does, which is quite interesting, and it just shows how intricate Capcom are when they're designing these Resident Evil games. And I think in a way, Resident Evil 5 and 6 are lacking in that slightly. And I think that is why a lot of people, maybe don't, especially with 6, don't really like 6 as much. But no, it'll be interesting to see what you think of them as well when you get round to those. I personally prefer 6 over 5, which isn't the most popular opinion. But yeah, I'm not too keen on 5 personally. I think it is great with a friend, but yeah, there's just something about it. I just find it really stiff and wooden, and
yeah,
it's just a bit.
I feel a little bit of that. I mean, I haven't played through 5. I just started the very beginning of it on PS Now too, but it doesn't seem like it has its own character or soul. Like I know that was the first time it was on a next gen console when they moved to like 360, PS3 at that time, but it doesn't have that same character where you look at it and you just like it doesn't seem enticing. I feel like the color scheme is really drab. Like I like something about RE4 is really iconic, and then it doesn't have that kind of effect with RE6 or RE5 rather.
No, exactly, and I think RE5 when it came out, I mean there were so many other third person games just in general.
Right.
Dead Space was out before RE5, right?
I want to say there might have already been on 2 around that same time.
Yeah, so you've got Dead Space, which plays like incredibly well, and I played it recently on PS3, and it's just an absolute joy to play. And then RE5 just still feels like so wooden and stiff, and yeah, like you said, it just doesn't seem to have this character that all the other Resident Evil games have. And then that's why I prefer Resident Evil 6, because even though Resident Evil 6 is still lacking in the atmosphere department, and it doesn't again have that unique character, at least it plays really well. And actually feels like a game of its time when you're killing enemies and shooting and things. But yeah, there's just something about RE5. I just find it frustrating to play, and I think it just looks really like dull as well.
Right.
But it has some cool moments. Has some really cool characters and cool enemy designs and everything like they all do. But yeah, it's just probably my least favorite.
Yeah. Well, I do want to try and get through them all, but we'll see. Hopefully, I can handle it. As long as Ashley doesn't show up again, I think I'll be okay.
Yeah, no, you'll definitely you'll have some fun with. I think her name's Sheva. Your
right, yep, and she actually does stuff. Yeah. She's got a gun. Yeah, then that's way better.
But there's times where you'll have to where she'll have to open a door for you. So she'll have to fight through enemies by herself. Which when you're playing co-op is really cool because you're waiting and you can cover your friend whilst they're doing things. But when you're playing with the AI, you're just watching the worst AI ever try and get through these enemies, and it's even worse when you're trying to do it on the harder difficulties because the enemies hit so hard, and you still got this really dumb AI, and it's just it's just not great.
Gotcha. Nice, Callum. Well, let's see what else happened in the news. Not a whole bunch, but there's some interesting stuff, especially with Final Fantasy VII lately. So it came out. Has it been 2 weeks or maybe a solid week? I think we're on 2 weeks now with Final Fantasy VII.
I think about 2 weeks. Yeah.
So it's sold pretty well, and I think this is the first game to feel a kind of a limit in what it can sell with the whole drought of physical copies out there with Corona stuff. So I pulled up some of the actual facts here. This is from GameSpot. Final Fantasy VII Remake hits big 3-day sales milestone. So Steve Watts writes this. Final Fantasy VII Remake is an anticipated return to one of Square Enix's most beloved properties, and it's showing in its sales figures. The company announced that in just the first 3 days, having launched on April 10th, the game sold 3.5 million copies. So the next wrinkle to this is the fact that you can buy digitally, but on Amazon, it's not in stock until May 26th, which is a good month from now. which is pretty bad. So if you're looking for a physical copy, it's tough right now. So I pulled up just a quote to kind of put into perspective. This is Benji Sales. He's on Twitter. He's a really good industry analyst. So his quote is, "Follow up to all the reporting I've been doing on extreme Final Fantasy VII Remake shortages. If you order through Amazon right now, it doesn't get delivered until May 26. Don't expect Square Enix to be able to match Final Fantasy, let's see, what is that, 14?
15.
There you go. I'm terrible at that. Final Fantasy 15 shipments for some time, even if the demand is there. Sony absolutely made the right call delaying The Last of Us Part 2. So there's a actual, physical demand that just isn't being met because of Corona stuff tied to this.
It's I mean, firstly, it's amazing how much it's sold. I think it was because it shipped 3.5 million, didn't it? So I mean, whether or not it's sold through them all, I mean, I'm sure it probably isn't far off, but including digital sales, I'm sure it's far exceeded that number. I mean, it's amazing considering it's only on PS4 at the moment. I think it's probably outsold, if not getting very close to like God of War and Spider-Man and everything like that. I think I don't think in terms of Square Enix, I don't think it sold as many as Kingdom Hearts 3. But then again, that was another big release, and that was multi-platform.
Right.
But yeah, it's great, and I think it's really cool. I'm seeing a lot of positivity about the game, like critically and from fans. I mean, at first, it was quite a unique, well, not unique, but it's something that doesn't really happen as much anymore when, there's such a limit on who can talk about it. I mean, they were really like big on not talking about it. So, because I played it like constantly, as soon as I got my hands on it, I was sort of like experiencing people's reactions live, sort of on like Twitter and things. As I completed it, there was lots of other people completing it, and I was getting very like fresh and raw like opinions on it. But now that's sort of all past, and it seems to be lots of people are really loving it, which I'm really glad about, because it's such a good game. I've got a friend who is huge Final Fantasy fan as well, and him and his brother didn't like it very much.
Oh, really?
And yeah, they're like probably they're the only people I've really heard that really disliked it. They just disliked the writing and everything, but no, I thought it was solid. I thought it was a really good game. I'm really enjoying the hard playthrough. It's not too hard, but it definitely makes you like play the game in a different way, which I think's done really well. And just the general like progression, so how it like tracks everything you've done as well, is just so. It's just really easy to understand, and the way they've just made the way you replay it is just really well done. So yeah, it makes sense that it's sold a lot, and you'd imagine when May 26 comes, even more will go out. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no, you touched on a good point. There is something to be said about playing a game at the same time as everyone else is, at least with the internet experience tied to it, because we're all online. We're all, if we're nerds like us, like we're reading into interpretations online and reviews and just Twitter stuff, like people experiencing the same moments you are. So there's definitely like I've had that same need where I want to jump in as everyone else is, so I can kind of feel those same, and I understand those memes that are coming out. It's like you want to be a part of that conversation. So I definitely jumped into games early on just so I could still be a part of that conversation.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think because of the Final Fantasy VII and its story is such a big deal to a lot of people.
Right.
I think that even like the real assholes who like to spoil things, even they weren't saying anything. So it was quite cool. I really didn't know what to expect story wise, and it's been a while since, even with like films, because I'm not too bothered about spoilers really. I don't really mind hearing them, and I normally end up spoiling things for myself. But with Final Fantasy, I didn't look into anything, and reviews were very hush about a lot because they were obviously told to by Square. And yeah, so it was quite cool to play something that's so worldwide and such a phenomenon, and to experience it in like real time. It was pretty cool. It's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, there was on that same topic of just like spoiler stuff and kind of experiencing at the same time, one of the reasons, or at least issues, that Naughty Dog brought up with having to delay The Last of Us 2 was they wanted to make sure that, because I guess it's possible they could go with a digital thing and then come out with retail eventually, but then you've split that audience where some have experienced it before others, and you can't
Yeah.
stop the internet. So it's like these memes, these conversations are going to happen, and you're going to have a huge group of people that can be a part of that. When I first heard that, I guess I thought, like, why do we care how other people are experiencing it? They can just, you know, turn off. They can just turn off their awareness to what's going on, but you kind of can't do that, you know, like it's not realistic. So like this really put in perspective where it's like you can't not be a part of the conversation. You're going to hear spoilers, you're going to hear stuff. So maybe you do want to actually care about that part of the audience too.
Yeah. I think it's definitely the right call, delaying Last of Us, and I think we touched on it when it first happened anyway. That, you know, it is going to split the audience,
right,
not having this physical release, and for such, and I mean, it's hardly ever. I mean, Final Fantasy 7 and Last of Us being this close in proximity, kind of makes it seem a lot more common than it is. But it's really not common for games this big to come out.
Yeah.
And it's just so happened that they're both coming out in the same year, hopefully.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, with Last of Us Part 2, and that's why I don't think that Ghost of Tsushima will get delayed, just because I can't imagine anybody's going to be like, oh, nobody spoiled Ghost of Tsushima.
Right.
Not that
one guy
people should go out. Yeah, not that people should go out and spoil it, but, you know, it's not going to have these huge sanctions. Like, you know, it probably won't have a really specific review embargo like Final Fantasy did and like Last of Us will. That's why I don't think Ghost of Tsushima has to be delayed. But then again, they did delay Iron Man VR, didn't they? Which
they did. That one I think may have been tied to just productions or like development stuff. I feel like that maybe, and they just kind of, you know, lumped it up in there. But no, you're totally right, and especially what were you gonna say?
I was just about to say, I mean, I suppose with Iron Man VR, I suppose that's a lot more hands-on with like a headset as well. So I don't know whether maybe it's something to do with that, and maybe they haven't quite developed a good system to develop a game for something like that, where, you know, I don't know. I mean, I haven't developed a game for VR before or whatever, but I could imagine that maybe it's something to do with that. But yeah, I mean, it's that's the only thing that's sort of like making me and ah about whether there'll be any more delays. But if we're just looking at Last of Us Part 2, I think that could be singled out on its own just because of its sheer size, and that's why it's been delayed. Whereas all these other games that are coming out, I can't imagine, you know, needing to be delayed. Right,
and I think with, I mean, we're seeing issues with Final Fantasy 7 not being able to sell its potential because it's lacking that physical, the amount of physical discs that they can print. So the writing's on the wall where it's like, why would you want to limit the Last of Us launch at all in sales? You got to make sure that you have the actual production ready for it. And with Ghost of Tsushima, I'm sure that it won't be delayed. Just now, the fact that they have enough discs they kind of anticipate how much it would sell, and they have enough allocated where they can say, well, we have enough discs to actually supply what we think it will do retail wise, so we're fine there. But with Last of Us 2, even if we took all the copies from Ghost of Tsushima, you know, those like just raw discs, like it still wouldn't be enough to supply that demand. So just keep Ghost of Tsushima going on. So at least you can supply a big first party title, and then you can wait till you have everything ready to go for that big juggernaut that's Last of Us 2.
Yeah, and games like Final Fantasy 7 and Ghost of Tsushima have been delayed so much and you know been in production for so long that I'm sure they've probably had these talks of how much they think they're going to sell and everything like that. And again, I know Last of Us probably did as well, but they don't want for this to be, you know, much further into this pandemic than Final Fantasy 7 was. You know, I'm sure that they'll have a lot more issues with production than Final Fantasy 7 did. And The Last of Us Part 2 will probably need, I mean, easily 3.5 million copies to go out as well. But you've also got the fact they might have these 3.5 million copies, but it might be that, you know, certain suppliers can't get hands on it. They're shut down, or people like Amazon. It looks like Amazon are you know, spacing out when they take stock in and things like that. So I think it's probably also to do with not just producing the actual discs themselves and the actual games, but then getting them out to, you know, the people who then sell them on to the consumer. Yeah,
that's the reality. There's less retail chains to rely on, and you have to have those ducks in a row. Otherwise, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. No, I agree. This whole thing makes more sense now as time has passed to actually like dissect it. At least it took a while for me to fully like grasp it, and then now it makes more sense. That, like, of course you would delay this. It's a huge thing. You can't fuck this up. This is arguably the biggest launch for PS4. Now that God of War is out of the way. Horizon, but that's still like a new property, the first Horizon, Zero Dawn. So it's like this one you cannot mess up.
No, yeah, definitely not. And it's got such a hype as well that, if it was to be released now, then like with Final Fantasy 7, there'd be huge shortages and people wouldn't be able to play it because, like we were saying earlier, not everyone has good enough internet to play their games digitally or to download them or whatever. And so some people do rely on these hard copies still. So yeah, it's definitely the right call, and time will tell whether or not, how long it's going to be delayed for.
See, now the next thought is, and this leads into our next story, is if stuff like The Last of Us getting delayed to handle the right time to actually get your ducks in a row with shipping, with production, I feel like next gen needs to also be delayed to handle this kind of thing as well. But let's pontificate on that. So the next story here is from Push Square. It's a rumor: PS5 reveal planned for May 2020, but Sony might have to reschedule. This is Robert Ramsey of PushSquare.com. Sony has yet to reveal the PlayStation 5. We know quite a bit about the console already, and we've been given a good look at the DualSense controller, but we're still waiting on the big next-gen showing. However, the ongoing coronavirus situation undoubtedly upsetting the PlayStation fans, it's difficult to predict when the Japanese giant will make its move. With that in mind, this latest rumor makes for some interesting reading. VGC reports that Sony was recently planning to have a full PS5 reveal in May 2020. This is according to an unnamed source, but given how reliable VGC tends to be, we're prepared to bet on this being legit. But as exciting as it is to imagine seeing the PS5 next month, we'd advise against getting your hopes up. As mentioned, everything's up in the air due to coronavirus, and it's entirely possible that Sony has already rescheduled or reworked its supposed PS5 reveal. After all, the company went on and delayed Last of Us Part 2 indefinitely just weeks ago. The rumor doesn't stop there, though. VGC also adds weight to claims that Microsoft Xbox Series X reveal is set for May. It could be that we're going to have the two next-gen consoles going head-to-head very soon, assuming that, again, plans haven't been altered. So if this is to be true, there were some rumblings, plans initially to have a May announcement, big digital event where they show everything off, announce stuff. But do you foresee some kind of, push to see how the summer goes with Corona and wait to see if they actually go for a full fall, release with this next gen stuff?
Yeah, I think I still think it will come out this year, but you've had Sony say that if Xbox delay, then they might delay. It might influence their decision. So, I don't know whether this is just them. I suppose now they don't have to have like a live show.
Right.
They can literally decide to do it tomorrow, if that makes sense. They could have the reveal ready to go. They just need to, choose a time to do it. They don't need to be like, next week we're doing this and invite people to come to it and things like that. So maybe, they're ready to go. They're ready to go with the reveal. They're just waiting to see what Xbox are doing. So I think, you never know. The whole that they might not, they might have been planning to reveal it in May, but that might be pushed back. Who knows if it's actually going to be pushed forwards? If Xbox revealed their Xbox tomorrow, maybe Sony would come out and do it at the end, the end of the month. That's obviously hypothetically speaking, but I think they're probably just watching Xbox because they've been very vocal about how they're waiting for Xbox to reveal their price, they're waiting for Xbox to do this, they're waiting for Xbox to do that. So I think they might be doing the same here, and I think in a way that makes it obvious that they're really they're really noticing that Xbox are doing good things at the moment and making the right moves. So they obviously see them as a real close competitor, which they should. But apparently Xbox don't see PlayStation as one.
Right.
But yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? I suppose it's the same as all the other PS5 news. You just have to take everything with a pinch of salt. And again, since February, March, it's been the same. Next week could be the week they reveal it, and I think it'll just go on that way until they do reveal it. It'd be nice to see it in May, and if not, then hopefully June.
So you don't expect a delay at all? Do you think we're still kind of gearing towards for both systems to launch this fall?
Yeah, I think so. Like I said before, I feel that the plans that that is if production and manufacturing can go ahead, obviously, but it sounds like it can, especially from PlayStation's standpoint. But I think that it'd be much more detrimental to delay it, because then that means that all their plans that they had, because I'm sure they had a huge roadmap for when the PS5 came out, or a very well thought of roadmap. So the cost that it would take to remodel that and rework that and replan everything, I imagine that would be a lot more detrimental than just releasing the PS5, letting it sit on shelves if need be. But at least it's out there, and then people can, you know, save up and get it, and or people can wait till, you know, everything's back to normal and until they can afford it and then get it. And I just don't. And the fact that Sony are already saying that they're not going to produce that many PS5s at first, and they're not anticipating, you know, a huge amount of sales or whatever. I think that just goes to show that there shouldn't be a reason why they delay it, because they're not expecting this thing to fly off the shelves anyway. So yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but from what I've seen and the way Sony seems to be handling it, I don't think it'll be delayed. And PS4s are no doubt going to be reduced to, you know, pennies,
right?
Because they want to try and get, that's how they want to try and get people over the PS5. So if anything, it's a good time to reduce the PS4's price in this kind of, you know, time where, and climate where people are, you know, a bit more strapped for cash and not doing sort of so well financially. It could be a good time when people are stuck in home and they need something to do to you know, make the PS4 really cheap, and then start getting ready for however they're going to try and get people over the PS5. So yeah, I just think that it makes more sense to release the PS5, let it do what it does, let it sell how it sells, and then just carry on with your, you know, your marketing roadmap that they already have in place, carry on with the game roadmap. Because, you know, if they end up delaying it and then this whole situation is, you know, wrapped up quicker than they might have anticipated, then that's going to hurt them a lot more than if they had just gone with their schedule anyway. But again, I don't know. There's much smarter people in charge of these these choices, but that's just how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, those are good points. And you mentioned the smarter people in charge. I mean, as far as Xbox goes, there was that recent interview with IGN. Phil Spencer talked to Unlocked, their podcast there, and they mentioned there is no plan, at least publicly, there's no plan B for not launching this fall. Like, they're all ships, all steam ahead, you know, going with that launch. So they must see the writing on the wall that they can handle a limited release and then eventually ramp up production. Same with PlayStation. So that makes sense too. It's just kind of a we're in a weird time, of course, but like traditionally these consoles, like you put all your chips in, like you really focus everything on a launch and with full force. But now it's kind of like a more segmented kind of way of launching a system, when it used to be a bigger deal, but that's also the reality right now.
Yeah, and I think because Sony had already said that they weren't gonna have a huge amount of PS5 produced. This is way before coronavirus even was on the horizon or anything, and they had already said that they plan a year or even 2 years into PS5's life cycle when it's released, that they still plan on the PS4 being their main source of revenue.
Yeah.
And so I don't know whether that's because they're trying to do that thing, you know, when companies release a new games console, and because it's limited production, it makes it seem more like people want it more because it's harder to get, if that makes sense. You know, when you're
that's
looking everywhere and it's sold out. Yeah, exactly. It's like when they made the Wii, wasn't it? They produced, you know, manufactured hardly any of them, so they were so hard to find, and it just makes them more enticing. So it looks like Sony were trying to go for that anyway. I imagine that the only real hiccup releasing a console during these times would be that you're not going to sell as many as you predicted. But it sounds like Sony were predicting not as many sales anyway, so it's not going to be as hard of a hit. It's kind of like they're moving in the same direction as the punch, so it's not going to be as the blow won't be as bad.
That's very true, and it's also how you spin it to investors and stockholders to give them that information. Like, hey, we're anticipating this, so when we see this kind of reaction, like that's what we're kind of getting ready for. And so it's smart to stay ahead of it. And you're hitting all those exact points. I think those are solid. We'll see. I mean, it's a strange time. We keep saying that every week, but it really is. I mean, everything has been shifted with how you launch a console, with how games are coming out. It's like it's all been changing.
Yeah.
So let's see. Hopefully, this next thing comes to reality. So this is an interesting patent from Sony. They seem to be really going crazy with these patents. But so it's a Sony patents robotic gaming companion that reacts to your emotions. I don't know if you've seen this yet. This is from IGN.com. Jordan Ullman writes, Sony has patented an autonomous robotic gaming companion that sympathizes with the user and reacts to their emotions during gameplay. The listening found on the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office website, depicts the robot as a fuzzy little guy who sits next to you on the sofa while you play games. It has no mouth but a pair of endearing eyes and cute boots, and is said to be able to talk and empathize with the player, as well as move its arm, leg, or neck in reaction to users' emotions. The patent mentions that ideally the robot would be autonomous to the point where it could sit beside you on the sofa of its own accord, rather than being placed next to the user. It's also noted that the robot could play games with the player, the example given being the companion controlling the opponent team of a baseball game being played by the user. The patent describes the robot including a feeling deduction unit, an object control system that can detect and act upon the user's emotions. The unit can evaluate feeling indexes such as joy, anger, love, and surprise, and will be complemented by a biological sensor that can track the user's heart rate and sweating state. It doesn't sound too far from another Sony patent for a controller attachment that measures biological responses. So here's the actual image here, Callum. It looks like a McNugget or like a turd next to you with eyes. How do you feel about this idea, just at face value?
I just feel sorry for it, because it is no doubt going to get his head punched in and thrown around the room when, if you're playing like Dark Souls or a sports game. It is going to get abused. But,
and those are good scenarios where someone's not being like creepy with it. Those are even the better scenarios. Like,
yeah,
get weird real fast.
Yeah, there are some weird games out there as well that could elicit those kind of reactions. But I don't know. At first I quite like. I thought it sounded quite fun.
Yeah,
having like a little robot next to you that will share in some emotions that you're having. And it's always nice, playing a game, and it's hard because whenever I play games with my friends, we're normally all sat in the same room with our own monitors and consoles, like playing next to each other. So, and you don't really get that anymore, where you've got someone sat next to you watching you play a game, or I don't get that.
Right.
Because normally, like I said, when I'm with my friends, they're doing something else, and I'm just playing a game around them, kind of thing. So yeah, it's quite a cool idea, but then as soon as you said about it coming, you'd have to place it there. It will come and walk and sit next to you. That's a bit scary.
It can get creepy, yeah.
And it makes me, I wouldn't want it walking around. I'd like to be in control of it. Like, do you know what I mean? I'd like to decide what it does and where it sits, and I wouldn't want it walking around and doing things. But yeah, it's really weird. It's extremely weird, and but I'm sure it probably has a place. I'm sure there's lots of people who get lonely and play games on their own and everything. So I suppose just as a generic companion idea, it's cool, but I don't want it walking around and climbing up on the sofa and things like that.
That's where it gets interesting, because then it could become your little buddy if it does, like it's charging in the wall, and then as soon as you grab your controller, you're like, hey, come on, little guy, and then he hops over on your seat. I know the patent describes it like being able to look up at you, and like that's why it has the eyes, so it will, whether you're frustrated with the game, it will kind of react, or you do something in the game, there's triumph, it like it feels the same way you do, so it reacts to your emotions. The idea of it sounds cool, but it's like hard to not go Black Mirror with it. Like it's obvious, like we're just so close to something weird happening with this kind of thing. But it's a very weird, just technical future that this is born out.
Like I just wouldn't be able to sleep, because I'd be like, what if it's like walking around my room, and what if it I don't know, what if I wake up and it's staring right at me?
Right.
Yeah, that wouldn't be I don't know. I don't really like the idea of like properly automated robots. I think it's cool if, like I said, if it's like a little like cuddly toy that like has some sort of like sensor inside it or whatever.
Yeah.
And the fact it can play games with you is kind of weird as well.
Well,
but
it might
I suppose
not need to have like a controller. It could just be the controller on the like internally, and so it just syncs up to your PS4 or PS7 whenever this comes out.
But then how's that any different to just playing with AI anyway?
That's true. Well, it's just like a thing that you see. You can look over and see it playing, and so I think there's that loneliness factor. It feels like a companion.
Yeah. I think from that perspective, like just a companion kind of doll or whatever is cool, and it looks pretty. I mean, if that's the kind of design, I think that's quite cool. But I mean, just looking at it, it's like if it was that design, like it's got really short limbs, so it'd have to like real scramble up on the sofa.
That's what could be cute about it though, because you have to help him, and he's just kind of like it's just this weird little ball of fuzz or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool. It's very like futuristic tech, so it's hard to like really grasp what my reaction would be, but it's another weird Sony patent, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what they do. I think they just kind of focus on that. But this one is very strange. It almost looks like on that patent too, it's hooked up to an Xbox. Like it's got that same like weird tower shape to it. But that's just
oh yeah, maybe that's a glimpse at the PS5, like a weird oblong rectangle thing.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I guess how much will this be? Maybe day one I'll be willing to jump in on this thing, but we'll see how it goes. Alrighty, Cal. Well, hopefully that actually becomes a real thing we can buy. Some more news on things that haven't come out yet. We have, or rumored, we have a deleted Guerrilla Games tweet seemingly confirms it's working on a PS5 exclusive. So this is from Games Radar, and of course they go into depth on something that's obvious. We know that Guerrilla Games is going to be working, obviously on Horizon Zero Dawn, I would imagine, or something like that, but we'll go into it here. So Alex Averett of Games Radar writes, a now deleted tweet from Horizon Zero Dawn developer Guerrilla Games suggests the Dutch studio is working on an upcoming PS5 game, which may or may not be the all but confirmed Horizon Zero Dawn 2. As cataloged by Reddit, the official Guerrilla Jobs Twitter account recently posted about a job listing for a senior AI programmer who can make a difference in design and implementation of the systems that make our NPCs come to life using the hashtag PS5 hashtag along the link to the vacancy. The tweet no longer exists, but the remaining screenshots of the post do indeed suggest that Guerrilla is hard at work on a potentially exclusive title for Sony's next-gen console, which is slated to launch later this year, provided there's no PS5 delay brought by the current lockdown measures around the globe. So it seems, I guess, obvious that they're working on something for PS5. Would you say that, no, without a doubt, it's going to be Horizon Zero Dawn? Do you think that it's possible we still see some kind of Killzone reboot or, reimagining?
Yeah, I think it could be either. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is definitely being developed. I mean, it's pretty much, it'd be ridiculous to assume it's not.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think Guerrilla are probably big enough and to have two teams working on two games, and I'm pretty sure a while ago there was rumors that they were hiring for multiplayer developers or something like that. So yeah, I think it could be either or. I'd love to see a new Killzone game. I think Shadowfall was really good and it had a good multiplayer, and I think PlayStation are in need of an exclusive multiplayer shooter, because as much as I love all the exclusive PlayStation games, they are all very similar in a way. Third person story driven games, and it'd be nice just to have a multiplayer shooter, especially with Halo Infinite coming, which I'm sure is going to be awesome as well. So yeah, it could be either or. I mean, an AI programmer is quite a generic sort of job, I suppose, on AAA games like that. But I mean, NPCs, I suppose, is a bit more Horizon based. But then again, I would actually argue that that's a reason to say it could not be Horizon, because that's NPCs are such a big part for an open world game like that you'd imagine that they wouldn't need an AI programmer, because surely they'd still have that unless somebody's left or whatever. But so if it was Killzone, however, I mean, maybe that's something a bit further down development that they need. So I don't know. It could be either or for me. I think I'd like to see another Killzone game, but it's probably more likely Horizon, because I mean that's definitely coming.
Yeah, that one became such a huge front runner for their, a next strong first party game with Horizon. But I would argue too, like, as we move into a PS5 launch, which is, if we're following the traditional launch models, you want to have your strong first person shooter out the gate. So I feel like they should lean heavily onto that property that is Killzone. The Killzone Shadowfall launched with the PS4. That was the last time we saw it, and it was a strong game. So why not lean into that again here? And so you have that you have your launch lineup. You have a Killzone. I don't know if they've been working long enough.
They really don't have any. They really don't have any shooters either exclusive anyway. And Xbox, I don't know. I haven't seen whether Halo Infinite's going to be a launch title, but if that's coming out on Xbox, first person shooter audience is massive, and they need something to try and. Halo Infinite's going to cannibalize whatever they do, but I think a game like Killzone will at least be able to stand up slightly taller than something else against that. But yeah, I think you made a good point. I think release wise, I think it makes sense to emulate what they did with the PS4 and get a Killzone game on there. But then again, a Horizon 2 would be a huge launch game as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know what they should just remake Haze, because that was so good.
Was that them too? Was that Guerrilla?
No.
I know it was
that
was
Haze.
notoriously like not well received. There was like the honey then involved somehow. I never played it, but I know people really did.
And they'd marketed it as a Halo killer, which was like the worst mistake they could have done, because then it instantly got all this hype. But yeah, no, it wasn't great. But no, it wasn't Guerrilla. It wasn't Guerrilla. It was.
Gotcha. I feel like it was somebody else
now. Yeah, I can't imagine they're probably in business anymore, because I think that game is definitely a business destroyer. But
yeah,
I'm
I wouldn't
sure.
doubt it. Now, the idea of them leaning on or needing a first-person shooter out the gate for PS5, it could be that they follow the lead of having a Horizon reboot, or sorry, like a shooter reboot of Killzone, or they could just lean heavily on the whole Call of Duty deal they have. They have that somewhat timed exclusive deal with Call of Duty. They've had it for a while now. Maybe they just lean that way with PS5 and they have some kind of exclusive content with Call of Duty.
Yeah.
But I think it benefits them to have a strong first party shooter, because they really don't have that. So but you have Killzone waiting in the wing, or I guess you get, because Naughty Dog, they eventually bought Naughty Dog, or not Naughty Dog, Insomniac. There you go. So you have the franchise with them with Resistance. What if you bring that back to life? I don't know if they've had enough time to work on something like that, but
I'd love a Resistance game. In fact, I saw that was on PlayStation now, actually, Resistance 3, which is by far the best one. But yeah, I'd love to see Resistance come back, even if it's just a HD or a remastered trilogy. I mean, not a remake or anything, just like an up-res and trophy support. I'd love to see. I love those games so much, and yeah, actually, I didn't even think of them. I think that could be another one, that a PS5 release game that would be just huge.
Yep.
Again, even if it's just a trilogy, PS5 only. I mean, that would be massive. But yeah, we'll see. I'd love to see a new Killzone, but equally, I'd love to see a new Horizon. I'd love to see a new Spider-Man. I'd love to see a new Resistance. I just want to see the PS5, and I want to see some games on it, really.
Something, man.
I don't really mind which ones. Yeah, just something. Yeah, just show me the box.
Right. Yeah, all I have to do, really, they show the console and then pre-orders are live, and bam. I mean, that's how much everyone's so hungry for news, for some kind of movement, that they could do that literally, and they could already sell.
Yeah, and knowing there's limited production, I mean, I'll be very upset if I don't get a PS5 on launch. I'll be very, very sad. But
yeah.
Especially if they do end up, bringing, having a really strong launch library. So I need those pre-orders to go up so I can just confirm that I've got one.
Yep. So you can sleep at night next to your little AI buddy that you got there.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Kyle. Well, that's it for our news. We'll end it there for this week. We'll end it. Where can they find you on the interwebs?
On Twitter at Bear Munro is about the only place I dwell. And
you're posting your gameplay thoughts, your overviews, reviews with some PlayStation Now games there right now. Yeah. So
I just had the idea to do it, because it was when I was playing PlayStation Now, I sort of thought it was a bit overwhelming, and it'd be nice to have somewhere where you could just go and just see. Because and for me, like, for example, I did Black Mirror as the first game, and that drew me in to play it because of the series, and which it doesn't actually have anything to do with, but just its name, and there's no information on PlayStation Now about it, really. So I thought that was a good one to start with. But yeah, I suppose I'm doing the podcast and getting used to hearing myself speak, and I thought it'd just be a fun little thing to try my hand at, especially with all this extra time. And yeah, I've never done videos or anything like that. I have no idea what I'm doing, but and the first video is evidence of that. But I'm enjoying it. It's just something to do. It's fun, and yeah. So I don't know if I can even recommend it, because it's so it's in such its infancy. But yeah.
Well, it's there for anyone that wants to jump in and see that. I like the idea a lot, because you're taking up the you're dealing with the stress and with the letdown, so that users don't have to. They can just see whether it's good or not.
Yeah, and I think it'd be interesting to revisit a lot of these PS3 games like Resistance 3 and and I think God of War Chains of Olympus would be a good one because I completely forgot they were even remastered for PS3. So it's sort of and it allows me to like test out, like in my next video I'm going to plan on talking about how it works on my laptop and just sort of letting people know how the service works, how the streaming works.
Nice.
And so I just don't think there's much really, nobody really talks about the service.
Right. I feel like it does go under the radar. You hear a lot about Xbox's service, that their competitive version of that, and you don't hear a lot about PS Now.
No, and it is quite, in a way, overcomplicated. It doesn't have to be as complicated as it is in terms of, like you were saying about, you can download some games to stream others and things like that. I think there is a lot to talk about and to sort of get across to people who are maybe thinking about getting it, or maybe who have it, subscribe for 12 months and are finding they're barely using it. So so I'm just trying to do that, and I like talking about games, and it's a nice incentive for me to play through games that I wouldn't otherwise play, and so see how it goes. But
do you know if there's a phone app version of that, or is it just PC and then on your PS4?
I'm not sure actually. I was looking because I assumed there was a Vita version because it's a lot of streaming. I assumed you could play it on your Vita, which would be awesome. But they actually got rid of that in 2017, which is a real shame because I think that could be a real extension of life for Vita. I mean, obviously you might not be able to. I mean, I don't know. Actually, you might be able to stream the PS4 games on there, but yeah, it might not maybe have a powerful enough network card in it or something.
That's true.
To stream.
Yeah, but if it's just streaming, then it shouldn't be an issue. But you're right with the actual network capability of the Vita. But Vita at one point, I mean, for a while you could stream PS4 games from your console to your Vita on your own home network.
Remote play,
so it has that capacity at least.
Yeah, so I think remote play is not really something I use very often, simply because it doesn't have the triggers, and that would be a problem with PlayStation Now as well. But yeah, I'm not sure about PlayStation Now on mobile. I know that you can get remote play on your phone now, and you can get like that attachment for your controller, which seems quite cool. But I can never find them. I don't know where you get them from. But yeah, so I don't know whether you could like cheese it and remote play your PS4 and then run PlayStation Now on your PS4 or something like that.
And there's so much lag at that point.
Yeah, but no, I mean it works well on my laptop, and I mean I've got a fairly decent laptop, but I mean I'm sure you could probably buy like a $300 laptop,
right?
Which is like decent enough of good. It'd have to have good network capabilities, obviously, and then download it and try it on there. But yeah, it's something that I think would work well on Vita, but Sony have buried it.
Yeah, they don't give two shits about. They care more about this fuzzy doll thing than they do the Vita.
yeah.
All right, Cam. We'll end it there. You can find us all as well on Twitter, Plastic Heart Pod on Twitter as well. That's it for us this week. We'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.
See you later.
You're too late. I've already summoned Meteor.
Okay, let's go.